What a legend. Thanks, brother. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It's an honor. I was going to take that off. It's an honor to be here, to be able to speak to you all about something so incredibly important, something that can change this world, something that can make this world a better place through each and every one of our actions. So I just want to let you all know how important you all are, how each and every one of us has a role to play, and whether big or small, every single action pointing into the world, pointing into the direction of making this world a better place is a necessary, meaningful and significant action. So first of all, I just want you to give all yourselves a round of applause for being here and for doing whatever it is that you do. Thank you all so much. Every little action matters. Okay, so the little bio that he was probably going to read out goes something along the lines of, when I was 17, I was diagnosed with cancer. I suffered. That gave me an understanding of suffering. I was a personal trainer for 8 years, and I love helping people feel better, feel strong, feel healthy, and come out of their suffering. Soon later, I learned about becoming vegetarian for the health benefits, and then soon later, I learned that there is a truly strong ethical argument in favor of not consuming animal products, which I'll talk about soon. Soon later, I went vegan, and then after that, I decided I needed to do more. So I took a 1-year-long vow of silence to raise awareness for animals and promote peace over violence. Well, thanks. Thanks, guys. So you cheer now, but when I told the vegans I was going to do that, they're like, "What are you doing, man? Animals need your voice." And I was like, "I'm giving them my voice completely." So it all worked out. Millions of people were inspired by that action after I spoke for the first time on Australia's most popular morning TV show. And probably tens of thousands of people messaged me who had changed their lives. So it was a phenomenal action and a leap in the, a leap in the deep end. Who knew what would happen? But I just took a leap of faith. It all worked out. Since then, I've traveled around the world giving lectures about my journey, mainly I'm focused on one of two things. Helping non-vegans connect that they are already vegan at heart, and that the only thing left for most people to do is simply to align their actions with their values. My other goal is always to empower and encourage people who are already vegan to take the next step and to become active in spreading this message, in sharing this gift, in spreading the love, in increasing the peace, reducing the violence, and making this world a better place. One of my speeches now has over 12 million views and has been described as one of the most influential speeches ever in inspiring people to become vegan. When I heard that, I was like, I'm taking the day off, man. I made it. Another speech has over 9 million views. Numerous of my videos are in the millions. And the reason I'm telling you that right now is because one of the things that I think people find most valuable about my activism is my delivery, is how I say the message, is how I put it out there. And that's something that I'm going to talk a lot about today. But I just wanted to, if you didn't already know, to help you understand why I will talk about the things I'm talking about, where I'm coming from, because it's not just a guess, maybe this way will be good. It's not just something that I plucked out of thin air. It has results, measurable results. Countless people have been inspired to change. So I want to share that with you because I feel like there's this huge section where all of us can advocate in a way that happens to be better for us as well, but is also better for the animals. Because I don't know if you agree, but sometimes I feel like vegans are our own worst enemies. Some of the ways that because we're so emotional about it, because it's such a serious issue, and because we come up against so many people who just don't get it, that, and it can be friends and it can be family, it can be tough. So I want to tell you exactly how I move past that and the strategy I use to help people from not getting their defenses up and remaining peaceful, not generating hate inside of us, so that we can fast track this and live what we're talking about. We want a peaceful world, we want a loving world, we want a compassionate, respectful world, then we have to model that behavior. That's what we got to do. We have to show how it's done. We have to walk this path so that other people can see how amazing it is and then follow in our footsteps. That makes sense? That makes sense to me. Yeah. Cool, thanks a lot. Glad you're feeling it. But before that, before I get into all that, because I know that we're at a Vegfest, probably most people here are going to be vegan, already that way inclined, but there's always those few people who got dragged here by their partner or their family member. They don't want to be here. They're looking at me right now like, this is boring, man. This better be good, right? You don't want to be here. You might not understand why you got dragged here. So I want to explain it a little bit for you, so that you understand what this is, what veganism is, what this extreme seeming thing is. Because I guarantee you, mate, every single vegan, before they went vegan, they also probably thought that veganism was extreme. Pretty much every single vegan I've ever spoke to also believed that they would never ever go vegan. So we can relate. I can relate to the people sitting here right now thinking, this is not for me, I'm only here just to keep him or her quiet. I hear, I understand. So let me explain it to you. Because a lot of people think it's extreme, a lot of people think it's unhealthy, all these things. First of all, let me start with health. The health benefits of cutting all animal products out from their diet are huge. You are likely to live a longer life, potentially putting 10 years on your life, 20 years on your life, because we are also reducing our chances of getting heart disease, which is the biggest killer, diabetes, obesity, osteoporosis, cancers. In fact, 14 out of 15 of the biggest killers can be treated or reversed by not consuming animal products. Huge. It's such a positive thing for our own health. And while we're currently in an epidemic of illness and disease, what could be more important than helping our friends and family get off some of their medications? Stop. So. Oh, jeez, man. Thanks, bro. You interrupted my flow. Where was I? No, I'm just kidding. So there's so many health benefits from doing this. And that's not it though. There's so many environmental benefits from doing this as well. When we cut animal products from our diet, because animal agriculture is a leading cause of deforestation, species extinction, habitat loss, ocean dead zones, greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, there's more greenhouse gas emissions produced by the methane that comes out of cows than by every single transportation device on this planet. They estimate by the year 2048, we will have fishless oceans. Fishless oceans. That's not far from now. I don't want a world, and I'm sure you can agree, I don't want a world where we're going to war over water. We should be leaving this planet in at least as good state as how we found it for the next generation, for our children and for their children. And the easiest way, the best thing we can do, because animal agriculture is the leading cause of the biggest environmental destruction happening today, it's also the thing that has the least necessity. We don't need it at all. Every nutrient we need can be found in a plant-based diet. Some people might think, man, okay, I get it, you don't want to eat meat. You don't want to eat meat because you don't want to hurt the animals. Because that's really the main thing. A lot of people, they might go vegetarian at first, and they're doing it for the animals or they're doing it for their health, but then they learn soon later that actually it's not just about being vegetarian. Now that is a good step in the right direction. But actually, if we're trying to reduce cruelty and violence and killing, then not eating meat is not the whole story. Think about it like this. Of course, when we look at a piece of meat, it has been cut off an animal's body, so someone suffered and died. And I say someone because we're talking about a sentient being here, a being with their own heart and their own brain, an individual. It's been cut off their body and they died. They were killed. When we talk about milk, when we talk about cheese or eggs, it's a little bit harder to connect, right? It's like a clear packaging with a white liquid, and on the picture, it's like a silhouette of a cow. It looks like a fairly happy cow. The truth is that the dairy industry is at least as cruel as the meat industry, which is at least as cruel as the egg industry. And vegans simply are trying to reduce the amount of harm that they're causing as far as practically possible. So it wouldn't make sense to just stop at not eating meat if there is at least as much cruelty and violence in dairy and eggs and leather, wool, silk, products that contain animal products or that have been tested on animals, or places that use animals for entertainment and work, right? So the thing with being vegan is simply about not consuming any of those products. And it might sound extreme, but since when did it become extreme to not want to be cruel to animals? What is extreme about that? Isn't it extreme to say that we are a nation of animal lovers that are against animal cruelty, yet we pay people to mutilate and torture and kill animals for foods and products that not only we don't need, but that we are far better off without? Wouldn't it make sense that we are all striving to cause the least amount of harm possible? And that's all being vegan is. It's about the golden rule, treating others the way that you would want to be treated. It is the golden rule in action. It's not extreme. Don't think that we're sitting around eating big ferns and eating grass from the ground with a sprinkle of twigs and berries. We're eating burgers, we got ice cream, we got cheese, we got cake, we got burritos, we got every single food that you already eat that comes from an animal, but we got the vegan version of it, the cruelty-free version without the saturated fats, without the cholesterol, without the hormones, without the highly concentrated doses of pesticides, without the environmental destruction. So we've got the same food, the same delicious food. Meat's delicious, I used to love eating it. We got that same stuff, but right next door, we got the vegan version that's so much better for our health, for the animals and for the planet. In fact, going vegan most of the time is this easy. You go to the same supermarket you're already going to shop at. You walk down the aisle, the same aisle you already go down. And you're just about to get the cow's milk. For your cereal, whatever. You're just about to get it, and then you realize, what am I doing? I'm trying to be vegan. And recently I remembered that I'm not actually a baby cow. And this is not for me. And then you just do this. This is how you do it. This is how you go vegan most of the time. It's literally this easy. Most of the time, all you gotta do is this. That's it. You just get soy milk, rice milk, coconut milk, hazelnut milk, hemp milk, cashew milk. There's so many other options for us. So what vegans are saying is that, look, if you wouldn't want to be harmed and killed, we shouldn't do it to them. There's no reason why we care about dogs and dolphins and whales, but then we kill and eat pigs and cows and chickens and fish. It's simply the way that we've been conditioned to believe that some animals matter and some animals don't. But when you think about that, there is absolutely no reason why that is true. Humans are animals as well. The thing that we share with other species is that we all want to live and we don't want to die. We don't want to suffer, we want to live in peace. They feel the same. So shouldn't we afford them that same basic right? The right for them to also simply live their life. That's what being vegan is all about. And it's as easy as that. Anybody here who isn't already vegan and feels like it's this big daunting thing, what I'd recommend is join a group called Challenge 22, challenge22.com. It's a free 22-day vegan challenge. You get all the tips you need, every recipe, every question answered, and you'll see how easy that is, how healthy that is, and how amazing it feels to align your actions with your values and live the vegan life. That's it. So I just wanted to let you know my take on what veganism is and why it's so important. Because it's not just some mundane diet choice. It's truly the difference between enslavement and freedom, between torture and peace, between death and life. It's a serious issue, and we are either paying for the foods of violence and killing, or we are creating a better world through our choices, a more peaceful, compassionate, respectful world. So because we are generally, most of us, good in heart, it only makes sense that we start aligning our actions with our values and walking that cruelty-free life. We'll all help you. If anyone's struggling, just nudge a person next to you, like, how do I do that, man? We're here for you. Now, that's just what I wanted to say to the people here who aren't vegan. I also wanted to thank you all for being here, because look, this is a different type of worldview. You know, it's a new worldview to a lot of us as well. Most vegans here have probably been vegan less than 5 years. It's a growing awareness that we can live more compassionate lives, and we are just, I'm sure I can speak for most vegans here to say that we're very grateful that you came, even if you still at this point have some questions or some objections or anything like that. So thanks for being here and listening with an open mind. Now, for all the vegans here who are already vegan, what's up? How you doing? You're already on the team, man. You're already on the team. But it's not just about getting on the team. It's not just about changing what milk you buy at the supermarket. That's a great start. Obviously, the first thing we should do is to cut our contribution to the suffering and the violence. Step one, that makes sense, right? But don't stop there. Do not end there. We need to speak up for the animals the way that we would want to be spoken for. If it was us in their situation, I want to remind you what happens to the animals. Because some of us, we watch one video, we go vegan, and we're like, okay, I'm never going to watch that again. And we can become complacent in our advocacy and kind of forget what an important issue this is. So I want to tell you some of the things that happen to animals. In the dairy industry, for cows to become pregnant, humans will shove their arm into the cow's anus and inject her vagina with bull semen. They'll force a pregnancy on her, and then they'll take her babies from her when she gives birth, which is a traumatic experience. Her baby boys, because they'll never produce milk, are sent to the slaughterhouse, shot in the skull, and have their throats slit. The baby girls, when they're old enough, will be forcibly impregnated like their mother was. Her babies will be taken. She'll be repeatedly hooked up to milking machines every single day. And this process repeats for 5 to 7 years until she's so severely exploited and used and abused that she can no longer continue, and she will also be sent to the slaughterhouse. In the egg industry, the baby boys, those little yellow chicks, are seen as a waste product. They'll never produce eggs. They're sent into a machine like a macerator that blends them up alive. A free-range facility means next to nothing for animals. They take them out of one small cage with 6 of them, they put them in a large cage with 30,000 of them. All animals, no matter how they're used, all end up at the same slaughterhouse. Every single animal loses their life, their most precious gift. They get their tails cut off, they get their teeth cut out, they get their ear notches taken out. There's so much cruelty, there's so much suffering. You've got to really think about that when we're thinking about what we're doing. Because imagine it like this. Let's say that you're with your friend and you're punching a dog in the face. This is before you're vegan, right? You're punching a dog in the face and then you realize, you know what? This is actually really cruel and I'm not okay with this anymore. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop punching that dog in the face. That's being vegan. You've stopped. But really, should we not also try to stop this person who is attacking this innocent being? That's what vegan activism is. Step 1 is to go vegan. Step 2 is to help others do the same. Because who else is going to do it? Vegans are talking about a message of abolishing animal exploitation. It's all wrong. People who are vegetarian do not speak that message. People who are against dog cruelty will not speak that message. People who are against live export do not speak that message. The only people who can give the right message, the message that all animals deserve to be free, are the vegans. That's us. It seems like a simple connection. It seems like a simple connection. All animals deserve to be free, therefore we shouldn't hurt them as far as practically possible. But for most people, they haven't made it yet. So it's so important that we are out there educating and encouraging and inspiring. Because that's the best way to do it. See, it's not just what you say, but it's also how you say it. In fact, I would argue that it's equally as important how you say it. Because you can easily have all the facts, but if you don't deliver it well, you can push people further in the wrong direction. No one's perfect, but we can all learn how to do this better. Now, the beauty of being a vegan activist, compared to so many of the other injustices happening, there are so many ways to do it, and you can find one that suits you. So if we had to go to war, we would have to get a gun. We would have to go and fight. We would have to be out there on the front lines and really fight a war. Vegan activism, you can get on Instagram. You can post a photo of your delicious vegan recipe. Post it, boom, you've inspired a bunch of people. You've taught them a bunch of people. There's so many ways we can help. What I would suggest, the first thing, is realize that every single seed you plant can grow into something amazing. One person said to me, eating animals is bad karma. A few years later, tens of millions of people have got the vegan message from my work. He said that one thing to me. Dude did not even have a YouTube channel. That's all he said. You never know who you will influence, what you will say, and how far that message will spread. So it's important that we are all being a voice for the animals and speaking up for them, just how we want to be spoken for. What I would suggest, the first thing that we do as vegans is learn the banana ice cream recipe. But when you've got that covered, second thing to do, become educated. Learn the answers to the most common questions that people are going to ask you. It's easy, it's fun, because when you learn the answers, you can start having some conversations that really start getting people thinking and challenging them. See, I always see it like this. People always start with a long list of objections. So many reasons why they think that they can't go vegan. I had them too. I had so many reasons why I was never going to go vegan. And I see them as like a big concrete wall. Each objection is a big concrete wall. Our job is not to force people to go vegan. You can't do it. You can't make anyone do anything. But what you can do is start putting cracks in these concrete walls. And after a while, these cracks make the wall crumble. And then they're one step closer to the goal. They're one step closer to living in alignment with the good person that they are. They're one step closer to becoming vegan. So the kind of objections I'm talking about, what are the common objections? Tell me what people say. What's the first thing people say when you go, okay, I didn't need to finish my question. Where do you get your protein, man? Put your hand up if that was your first question. Right? That was my first question. I'm like, yeah, sounds good being nice to animals, but what about my gains, bro? I was worried. So when someone says, where do you get protein? If you just say, I don't know, man, lentils, and you don't know how to answer that, it's not going to be strong. You're not going to put any cracks in that concrete. They're just going to be like, lentils, don't worry about it. If your answer is like this, great question. I had that same question too. And what I learned is that protein is found abundantly in all plant foods. In fact, if you are getting enough calories every day, then by default, you're getting enough protein. So you don't even need to worry about it. And it's not just protein, but all the nutrients that we need are found in a plant-based diet. In fact, the studies show that vegans have less nutrient deficiencies than people on a standard diet. So don't worry about where you're going to get your protein. Worry right now about where you're going to get your fiber, man. And look, when it comes to the protein thing, just to smash that myth a little more, the world record-holding strongman is a vegan. Mr. Universe of a few years ago is a vegan. World record-holding ultra-marathoner, world champion arm wrestler, UFC fighters, Olympic weightlifters, boxers, football players, you name it. They're not worried about where to get protein, so don't worry about it either. What you've done there is answered a few questions. You've answered where do you get protein? You can find it abundantly in plant foods. You've also answered or preempted the question of what about other nutrients? And you've got through what about athletes? Can I be an athlete? So these are a few of the typical objections that people will have. You've at least put a few cracks in these walls. Perhaps you've even helped one crumble down. One other thing that I also like to mention is that the benefit of getting protein from plants is that you get it without all the things you don't want that come in animal products, like the saturated fat, like the cholesterol, like the hormones, and all the things that cause us harm, disease, and cause our life to end sooner. So, do you see what I'm saying? You can answer a lot of questions in one. They didn't want to know all that. They just wanted to make conversation. Where do you get protein? If you gave them an education lesson, man, they got them a little bit closer, right? That's the goal, you know, just to help move them in that direction. When someone says to you, what about free range? Put your hand up if you think that's a good objection. We know it's not. But if you didn't know what you know now, would you think that you're holding on to a pretty good reason not to go vegan? Because they really think that they're doing animals a favour by buying free-range animals. In fact, the RSPCA will put a tick of approval on a humanely slaughtered animal, right? So how confusing for the general public. When someone says free-range, they buy free-range, they're doing enough. I say, mate, that is great that you care about animals so much that you are going out of your way to try to do better for them. But what I'd like to tell you is that free range means next to nothing for animals. In fact, sometimes there's even more cruelty in free range because the conditions change but new cruelties arise, new suffering arises. And at the end of the day, every single free range animal ends up at the same slaughterhouse, humanely slaughtered. And on the humane slaughter topic as well, how can you humanely kill someone who doesn't want to die? Do you think there's a way? Can we humanely murder? No. Can we humanely steal? No. So how can we humanely slaughter another innocent being who doesn't want to die? There's really no thing. It doesn't make any sense, does it? What you've done is got through free range, humane slaughter, and help them start thinking about the contradictions that we have, the double standards we have with humans and with other species. Knocked off a few. When someone says, and they always say it, what about plants, bro? Don't plants feel pain? I really don't think I would have had this objection back in the day, but maybe I would have. No vegan ever questioned my stance. When someone says that, don't be like, plants, bro, come on, man, look at this tree, do you see feelings here? Be chill and just be like, listen, good question. Actually, plants don't have feelings. They don't have any central nervous system. You need a central nervous system. You need a brain to feel pain. They have no brain, they feel no pain. They do respond to stimuli, but so does a doorbell when electric current goes through it. It doesn't mean a doorbell is a sentient being. So that's where the care starts, that's where consideration starts, with sentience, awareness of one's life. Even if plants do feel pain, which there's no evidence to show that they do, we kill 6 to 12 times more plants to fatten up animals than what we can take from them. So we give them all this food, we take back this tiny little bit. Meanwhile, 20,000 children die every day of starvation and malnutrition, often from the places where we import this food to fatten up these animals. If we just redirected a portion of this grain, we could end world hunger theoretically over and over and over again. So if you are a plant rights activist and you want to reduce plant casualties, then still by far the best path to peace is the vegan path. We've cut through a few things here. What about plants? We've also talked about world hunger, a great reason to go vegan, and basically got through a few of these things. So this is how we do. When you have answers to these questions, because here's the beauty, there is an answer to every one of these objections. That's why we all went vegan. You had a bunch of objections, you started learning the truth, and then your reasons to go vegan outweighed your reasons not to go vegan. And that's what happened. You got to a point where you went, you know what? I'm ready to change because this path is better. And this is a path more aligned with who I want to be. More peaceful, more loving, more respectful. So you change. That's what happens. So your job, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you sow. If you can just plant seeds, if you can just put cracks in these concrete walls, when these conversations come up, you are making a difference. And those seeds can grow into something amazing. Just like eating animals is bad karma. That grew into something powerful with me. And then I went out and did, tried to do my best to contribute to making change. You never know who you'll influence. If you have the answers to these questions, you will be armed. And don't just think of it as winning a battle. You are helping these people. You are helping your friends and family. You are helping these strangers be healthier, contribute to less violence in this world. This is a gift to share. It's such a beautiful thing. I know if I went around individually and asked, what's one of the best things you've ever done? You'd be like, oh, when I went vegan. Some people, I'm like, what about when you had kids? And they're like, yeah, but when I went vegan, man. When I went vegan. Like, it's so good. Every day you wake up feeling a little better than you were before, knowing that you're doing something better than you were before. You're contributing to something more positive than you were before. You're living for something, And think of this as well. You're the warrior for animals. You are what they need. They need your voice. They can't get themselves out of this mess. And we put them in this mess, and your words and your information and your education and your encouragement with people is literally what can get them out of it. So please use it, because it's so powerful what we can say and our actions and the truth. The truth is what we have on our side. And you don't need to yell, and you don't need to scream, and you don't need to lie. The truth is powerful enough. So remember that, keep that in mind. Now, that's what we say, right? Get the facts, get educated. It can be as easy as just Googling animal rights FAQ. There's a list of 100 questions. Choose the ones that you're not confident in. Put 1 or 2 where you brush your teeth, stick it on your mirror. Look at your muscles, vegan muscles, brush your teeth, read the little thing a couple of times a day for a week. It's in your head, you got it. Practice getting into the discussions online. Do whatever you got to do so that the answers are just boom, they come to you. This is basic sales. When you cross off their objections, they're like, okay, give it to me. And then there you go, here's the gift, man. You earned it. We got through all those walls. That is what we can do. That's our job as vegan activists. There's countless ways that we can do that. Countless. It doesn't mean you have to get up and be doing speeches. Some people do speeches. Some people organize the events that the speaker comes at. Some people write the speech. Some people make a documentary. Some people make delicious vegan meals. Some people make awesome vegan clothing. I've got a shop back there actually. Everyone come and buy a t-shirt. Some people make videos on YouTube, or they write posts on Instagram, or they do recipes, or they have conversations, or they write articles or books. I mean, there's countless ways that you can get this message out there. Some people take a year-long vow of silence and cycle across Australia and get tattooed for 25 hours. Wouldn't recommend any of that. But if you want, there's so many ways we can do it. So focus on what your skill is. What's your skill? What's your strength? Are you a good speaker? Are you a behind-the-scenes person? Are you an organized person? Do you like making videos? What is it? Whatever it is, or maybe you're an athlete and you want to use your body to show that we can break that stereotype, cross through that concrete wall if you can't be fit and strong and healthy as a vegan. Whatever it is, just consider what the objections are, and then use your skill, your talent, whatever you've already got to point it in the direction of spreading the vegan message. So you don't even need to change who you are, what you do. Already I'm sure who you are and what you do can be useful in helping. Now, what you say, boom, covered. How you say it, so important, equally as, wait, first, how long do I have? I don't even know how long I've been speaking for. Does anybody know what time it is? I got half an hour roughly?
2:50.
Okay, how long? I got 25 minutes, all right, sweet. I got 25 minutes, so how you say it is so important as well. The people that I look up to when it comes to advocating are people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend." You do not need to have fights about this. People will want to try to bring you down, but you don't need to go down to that level. If you do, you're probably not going to have a very meaningful conversation. You need to be strong, you need to rise above all that, and you need to just stick with putting the information out there without putting all the emotion and the the hostility into it. It can be so easy to feel hostile. It can be so easy to get aggravated when people don't seem to get it. But let me just remind you of a few things. We are living in a world currently where society for generations has told us all that consuming animals is natural and normal and necessary. Just because you just figured it out the other day or the other year, we've got a lot of work to do. And we should be very grateful that we can understand it and see through the conditioning, but most people can't. And me, only 4 years ago, I was exactly there as well. Couldn't understand it, didn't see anything wrong with my actions. You got to understand that most people, and remember where you were at, and understand that most people are not bad people. They're not deliberately trying to hurt animals. They don't realize that when they fight against veganism, they fight in favor of animal abuse. They don't see it like that. They think what they're doing is natural and normal and necessary. That's what they've always been told. They've been lied to and told they need meat for protein. They need dairy for calcium. Free range is fine, and that humanely slaughtering animals is also fine. So we look like the extremists. You've got to remember the kind of conditioning that we're up against here. And you probably won't get through that in one conversation. That's why patience is key. And keeping the lines of communication open is so useful. Because you're probably going to have you potentially might need to have a lot of conversations about this to get to that point where all the concrete is cracked. I want to give you an example of why and how this works, this approach, this method of being peaceful works. Because I know, I say, okay, everyone go be peaceful vegan activists. And you're like, yeah, sweet. And then as soon as you start talking about it, someone says bacon and you just get red and you're like, I'm going to strangle this person, right? That's the kind of world, man. You know, social media, it makes it so brutal for us, and it's hard because you look at your friend and family's plate, and it's like it's got, you know, when you become vegan, you become more sensitive to the issue of animals. They become kind of like your friends and like your extended family. You care about them on another level, right? So it's like your friends and family are cutting into, they paid for one of your friends or extended family, you know, however you want to see it, to be killed. And they're chopping up their dead body on a plate while eating it, and then patting the dog saying, what are you talking about? I'm an animal lover. It's weird. It's like zombie weird, you know what I'm saying? The best thing to do is to be peaceful. This is the approach, right, that I use that helps me really connect with people and keep people's defenses down. Because as soon as you get somebody defensive, this is a barrier between you and them. You don't need to get people defensive. You don't need to make it about them being wrong, okay? Just speak the facts. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I did a speech in Australia, in Melbourne, and halfway through the speech, 2 people came in, and they sat down and they glared at me, like so much hate. And I'm thinking, whoa man, are they in the right room or something? What's going on here? And it was like, I'm doing my speech, at the end, they didn't clap. They didn't laugh at any of the funny parts throughout the talk. It was like, no sense of humor, these people. And then the first question was by them, by one of them. That's all well and good, James. What about the farmers? And I was like, oh, okay, you're a couple of farmers. And it turned out that they were dairy farmers. And I explained as best I could that I care about the farmers too. I don't want you to suffer, but I don't want you to also create wealth at the expense of other innocent beings' life. We need to help you as well with an exit plan, because what you're doing is unsustainable and unethical. And I realize it's been in your family for generations, but that does not make it okay. Just because we've been doing something a long time does not mean we should continue doing it when we know it causes harm and that there's a better way to walk. This conversation went on for a while, and I was trying to be very peaceful and very respectful and very loving, knowing that I'm there to make friends, not enemies. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. I'm there to make friends. But because he was so condescending and so aggressive, and he was getting red-faced, stamping, I thought he was going to storm out of there a few times. The whole vibe of the room kind of came down a little. And there was a few vegans in the room who are a little bit more hectic than me. And they started slamming him. And I just had to pull it all up and say, listen, and stop and like really go to a peaceful place and muster all the compassion I had and let him know that he was not my enemy, and that I respect him. I just don't respect the choices that he makes when they cause harm to others. But I respect him as a person, and I understand that that's in his family and his generation. I just will never respect that. I think it's wrong, and I think he should change. As best I could. After the speech, like after that, I had to answer some more questions. I said, any more questions? First question, how do you stay so calm, man? I was like, okay, good question. I'm going to explain the process in a minute, but I want to first tell you how it works. He comes up to me after, and he says a couple more questions, like part of his long list of objections. A couple more objections. What about this, James? What about that, James? And I said, well, this is the answer, and that is the answer. And he looked at me and he said, you've got an answer for everything, don't you, mate? And I was like, yes. And then he smiled, and he said, well, maybe I'll call you later and ask you a few more questions. And I said, I'll be waiting by the phone, brother. And he laughed, and he uncrossed his hands, and he shook my hand, this dairy farmer. And then his wife, who was at least as angry, at least glaring at me the whole time as he was. I look at her, I'm like, uh-oh, are we cool? Like, I didn't know. And I look at her, and she looks up at me and she says, thank you for opening our eyes to this. And I was like, no worries. Whoa. Now, they could have left hating vegans even more. Those vegans, all they wanted to do is fight with us. They don't understand us. They don't get it. I hate those vegans. And gone and planted all those seeds out there. But they didn't leave like that. They left like this. Damn. That vegan had some good points, didn't he? Yeah. And he was a really nice guy, wasn't he? Oh yeah, he was a nice guy. They left with a good taste in their mouth about vegans. Feeling good, like, did they go vegan? Did they convert their dairy farm into a berry farm? I don't know. I'm not saying that they did. But what I am saying is that still matters, that they left with a positive feeling about vegans. Because we're trying to increase the peace. What do people think of vegans? Tell me. What do people think of vegans? Angry? Screaming, yeah? Preachy, aggressive, annoying, judgmental, weak, sickly. If a house was full of those people, angry, aggressive, annoying, judgmental, preachy people, are you going to want to party there? Do you want to go party at that house? No? Of course you don't. But I've got a party over here full of welcoming, encouraging, peaceful, respectful, loving, compassionate people. That sounds like a good place to party. You'll probably have a good time there, and you'll be welcomed there, and you can be yourself and have conversations that have meaning without feeling judged or feeling pushed away or running in the opposite direction and telling everyone not to go to that house because that house is